Today on Hearts of Heroes, a New York City apartment fire, a heart-stopping rescue.
We got into action and said, we have to go over and get this person.
And 2 precious lives at risk.
I just started yelling, we're coming, and help's on the way.
Plus, a devastating fire threatens priceless artifacts in the home of a World War II fighter pilot.
There was a guy, and he said, I see smoke coming out of your attic.
You're about to see that true heroes come from all walks of life. Of all the rescues firefighters perform, few are more daring or dangerous than a rope rescue.
And they are relatively rare, but firefighters are trained and ready if and when a rope rescue is necessary.
New York City, AKA the Big Apple. It's famous for so many things. Among them, Broadway, Wall Street, and of course, the soaring skyscrapers. But the true spirit of the city lies in the people, especially the brave men and women who serve them. And no one exemplifies that spirit like the members of the New York City Fire Department.
My favorite part of the job is the people that we work with, just the salt of the earth. Those that choose a life of service, I don't think there's anything better than that. And I believe we have the most dedicated workforce in the city of New York.
While each firefighter has their own personal reasons for joining the department, it mostly boils down to duty and honor.
Being a firefighter for me is just being someone who's works hard, trains hard, dedicates himself for the service in New York City.
What got me interested in being a firefighter was the events of 9/11, just inspired by the guys who was running in while everybody else was going the other way. And that probably inspired me and thousands of other New York City firefighters.
For these brave men and women, there's a sense of commitment, but also a sense of pride to work with this prestigious fire department.
We're the best trained, best equipped fire department, I would argue, in the world, quite frankly.
Part of that training is learning how to do a rope rescue. They barely ever use them, but they are an essential skill since the city is known for its multi-story buildings.
It's very, very rare, but it's one of those evolutions that we practice so much because you have to get it right every time. It's a serious, life-threatening situation for the firefighters doing it.
While most firefighters will never have to perform this dangerous maneuver, they all train for it weekly. This training was put to the test one early morning in September of 2020. Firefighter Jairo Sosa had been working more than 20 hours when he was dispatched to a 2-alarm apartment fire in the Washington Heights neighborhood.
When we arrived, we saw fire blowing out of the windows on the 5th floor of a 6-story building, and we saw people trapped on the floor above the fire, yelling for help and screaming for help.
The fire, it was cutting off the fire escape for people that were above the fire. If you were above the fire, you had no way to get down.
Our safety concern was that these people may jump or may collapse because of the smoke or the fire inhalation. So we knew we had very little time just to get to them and get them out of safely.
Firefighter Sosa immediately went to a position on the roof.
Responsibilities of the roof man involve being able to do a perimeter around the roof, make sure that nobody's hanging out a window, and making sure we open what we call the bulkhead at the roof, where we open the door and relieve pressure from the smoke.
He made his way to the roof and got to work.
I opened the bulkhead and a heavy amount of smoke came out of the bulkhead to the top floor. After that, I heard somebody yelling and screaming at the top of their lungs, and that's when I went to action and tried to find that person.
Sosa raced around the perimeter of the building, unable to find the people that were calling for help. Just then, firefighter Abraham Miller showed up.
You could hear it sounded like a child was screaming also. So we just looked at each other like, oh, we gotta find this person. Somebody's trapped.
They're trying to get water on the fire, but there are multiple people trapped.
With no time to lose, they split up to try to find the trapped victims.
And I just happened to look over the side of the building, and through the smoke, I just saw like a little person's hands out the window. We thought it was a baby, and I called Sosa over. I was like, yo, I think we got a baby out the window.
Inside the apartment, a grandmother and her 4-year-old granddaughter were desperately trying to escape the smoke and flames.
We were like, is that really what we're seeing? We had to double check with ourselves, and we said, yes, it's like a little baby is gonna be pushed out of the window.
So often, firefighters are put in a position where they have to make split-second, life or death decisions. These two brave heroes knew what they had to do.
In this situation, a rope rescue was the only option because there were so many companies already overextended to rescue the other people that were there.
But despite their training, neither man had ever performed an actual rope rescue.
Me and Nate got into action and said, we have to go over and get this person before they succumb to the smoke or fire.
Coming up, firefighters put their lives at risk to save a little girl.
We just decided we have to go over the roof to get them.
And later, firefighters battle a dangerous electrical fire.
When you find a live wire inside a fire, it could electrocute you back in through your water stream.
But first, a tip should you ever find yourself in a burning building.
As a restoration specialist, I've seen many homes impacted by fires. But while many fires start out small, they can double in size every 30 seconds.
If you're not able to quickly put out a fire with an extinguisher, it's safest to get everyone out of the house and call 911 from a mobile phone or your neighbor's residence.
Remember, never go back into a burning structure to save belongings. Items can be replaced, but lives cannot. Be smart, stay safe, call 911, and let the professionals step in.
It was early morning of September 29, 2020. New York City firefighters Jairo Sosa and Abraham Miller were responding to a fire in a 6-story apartment building. As they rushed to the roof, they heard the cries of a woman and a young child trapped inside.
Me and him started searching, and we found little hands pushing out of a window on the top floor.
We just decided we have to go over the roof to get them, especially considering that it was a child. That just sent us into another gear. We're like, we're going, we gotta go.
Fortunately, both men had rope rescue training. Now, they would have to put that training to use.
But as they clipped the rope onto Miller's harness, they then realized there was nothing to secure the other end of the rope to.
The biggest concern is you gotta find a substantial object, something to tie off on, something that's not gonna move, that's gonna hold your weight and the weight of the victim you're rescuing.
Unfortunately, I couldn't find anything to tie off to. I had to tie off to myself.
He laid on his back and put his feet up and used his weight and braced himself up against a heavy pipe, and he held the weight that way.
With only the weight of Sosa's body as a brace, Miller began lowering himself down to the trapped people.
I just started yelling down to the girl and her grandmother, like, we're coming, help's on the way.
When he reached them, he saw there was a child guard blocking the window.
I pulled on it, I just go forward, I push on it, I just go backwards. I'm like back and forth trying to get this child guard out of the window.
Heavy smoke in the window, we're standing through the child gate.
I wrapped my left hand inside of the window, and I just used my right hand to start punching the window. I was just yelling at them, get back, give me the baby, get back.
With the glass removed, he was able to pull the 4-year-old right out.
When I finally had her in my arms, I just squeezed her tight and was like, put your arms around me.
Instinctively, the little girl knew she was safe.
Craziest thing is she was crying the entire time. But once I had her in my arms, I said, you're all right, I got you, put your arms around my neck. She stopped crying.
I got the baby out the window.
Miller whisked the little girl away to a safe area, then handed her off to a medic.
That might as well have been my own kid at that point. You know, that's how we are, especially when it's a child involved. We operate as if it's one of our own.
Moments later, Miller was right back fighting the fire.
Even though he had just performed a dangerous rescue, this brave firefighter knew his job was not over until the fire was out and everyone was safely out of the building.
Soon after the little girl was out, firefighters were able to get to the grandmother and lead her to safety as well.
We were able to rescue the child. We rescued 14 people from that fire that day in many different locations of that building. So it was a very successful rescue in all aspects.
Out of the smoke and debris, a special bond was formed that day.
The girl drew a picture. She had little smoke coming out the windows. She drew her and me. It was like, I was in tears when I first got that.
To one little girl, this firefighter was a true hero. But Miller knows he's just one of thousands of heroes in the New York City Fire Department.
It was a pretty dangerous situation, but that's just what we do. If it wasn't me, it would have been somebody else. It's 11,000 more people in the fire department that would have lined up to do the same thing I did.
Coming up, an electrical fire puts first responders in a life or death situation.
We couldn't stop the problem until we get the electricity completely turned off.
That electrician could have jumped to the water stream and electrocuted our firefighters.
The brave men and women who served in the Second World War have been called the greatest generation. And when you hear their stories, it's not hard to understand why.
When one World War II fighter pilot's home went up in flames, long-forgotten artifacts emerged. These treasures opened a portal into the past, leaving even his loved ones astonished by his unspoken history.
Waco, Texas, located near the center of the state, sits about halfway between Dallas and Austin.
Waco is like the biggest small town in Texas.
It's scenic. There's a lake there, big parks, not much traffic. It was a good town to grow up.
96-year-old Robert Ross has lived in Waco since 1965. 2 decades before moving to Waco, he had enlisted as a fighter pilot in World War II.
I knew I wanted to fly, and I was lucky enough to get into the aviation cadet program.
More than 100 missions in the South Pacific earned him countless medals, including the Distinguished Flying Cross. But like many heroes, Robert never really talked much about his accomplishments to anyone, including his own kids.
I did not know that he flew 115 missions. He's never mentioned that.
Robert's keepsakes and honors might have been forgotten forever had it not been for a frightening event in June of 2022.
I was getting breakfast, and all of a sudden, this big pop. And the lights from all different parts of the house flashed on and off. And about that time come a furious knock on my front door. There's a guy there, and he said, "I see smoke coming out of the louvers of your attic."
When we got to the home, I saw light smoke coming from the eaves. That tells me that the fire is probably in the attic.
Summers are very hot, but this year was record-breaking because so many people are trying to stay cool. They're using more electricity, and as a result, it's putting a lot of extra strain on the electrical grid.
Many older homes like Robert's have outdated wiring. That puts a strain on the system when large appliances, like air conditioners, run for extended periods of time.
Simply put, Robert's wiring melted down. So to protect themselves, firefighters called in the utility company to turn off the power so they could fight the blaze. If the power was still on, things could turn deadly.
That electrician could have jumped to the water stream and electrocuted our firefighters. I remember the electrical utility guy saying, "I just removed the meter."
But somehow, power was still running through the house.
Electrical spark shoot, radio out, the power's not off.
We couldn't stop the problem until we get the electricity completely turned off.
Coming up, firefighters are faced with a layered and dangerous situation.
Turn the breakers off, that should eliminate all the power source to the house. That didn't happen.
That electrician could have electrocuted our firefighters.
In all that wreckage, long-lost treasures are discovered.
We started finding pictures and medals and all kind of stuff, so I knew it was going to be a special job at that point.
But first, a tip to keep you and your loved ones safe should you ever have a fire in your home.
Home fires can be terrifying and disorienting. Having a family safety plan in place can give you peace of mind.
Work with your loved ones to develop a designated meeting space near your home. That way, during an emergency, you'll know that everyone is safe and accounted for.
Having a plan in place before an emergency isn't just smart, it can save your life.
In June of 2022, an electrical fire ignited in the attic of World War II veteran Robert Ross. Utility workers tried turning off the breakers, but power kept running through the house.
That electricity could have jumped through the water stream and electrocuted our firefighters.
We were kind of puzzled because turn the breakers off, it should eliminate all the power source to the house. That didn't happen.
So he ended up having to go to the pole and shut the electricity coming off from the transformer.
And we did confirm that the power's off. Then we could open up all the walls, open up all the ceiling that we needed to ensure that the fire is completely out.
It was, but not before it did significant damage.
Whenever they pull ceilings, it makes a huge mess. Insulation goes everywhere. The sheetrock's wet, the insulation's wet because they've been blasting water into the attic for, 30, 40 minutes.
Our sponsor, Belfour Property Restoration, assessed the mess that the fire had made and began the cleanup.
The whole house had to be gutted down to the studs. We're gonna have to totally rewire the house and replace the roof.
But as they surveyed, they found something fascinating and unexpected.
I was kind of kicking around the insulation and the sheetrock, and I found an old leather satchel, and I looked on there, and it had pilot training manual on it, and I thought, man, this is pretty cool.
This Japanese flag, there's all these really interesting documents. There's a letter from this general that was mailed to his dad while he was still flying over Japan. Basically like a commendation, like you should be proud of your son type of situation.
And then we started finding pictures and medals and all kind of stuff, so I knew it was gonna be a special job at that point.
But many of these priceless artifacts had suffered serious water damage.
We immediately took them up to our facility in Fort Worth and put them through the filtration process, and then had them frozen and dried out and then cleaned.
We quickly learned that this guy has just an incredible story. We knew we had to do something extra for this man to honor him. We wanted to put him in some kind of display case, something he could hang on to, be proud of.
Today, they are presenting Robert with this special gift to honor his wartime service.
Hey, guys. Hey, Dad.
How's it going?
Hey, it's the Balfour guys. Dakota and Billy.
Hey.
What you got?
Well, Mr. Ross, after we saved some items from your house after the fire, we wanted to put this together for you. We had them professionally cleaned and processed so that we could present it to you.
Beautiful. Oh, it's fantastic.
We appreciate your service, and we appreciate you trusting us with your home and getting everything put back together. You're gonna have to tell us some of these stories, though.
There's the letter from your commander.
Yeah, that letter to your father.
Oh, my cripes, that's really something. There's my original wings. In fact, I think that's the pair I gave to my mother. Well, I'll be darned.
And Dad, the flag, you were given that in Japan?
Yeah, that was given to me by the Japanese people. The family gave that flag to me. And I thought that was really, really nice. I thought that was a great gift. But this is beautiful, and I thank you,
Great job, guys.
Belfour, for doing this. This is just, well, I don't know. I'm just amazed. I've never seen anything like this before.
Wow, Dad.
Yep, memories. Lots of memories.
It's cool getting to help people. I think it brought out a lot of memories that he hasn't really thought of in a long time.
I flew 115 combat missions and never got a scratch. Well, what more can you say? If you go through a war and don't get a scratch, you gotta say you're lucky.
It is remarkable to think that such incredible history can rise from the ashes of destruction.
Or how stories from decades ago emerge from the most difficult circumstances.
But you don't need a disaster to give thanks to the heroes in your family, be they young or old. Until next time, thanks for watching Hearts of Heroes.